Boy, a bell gets everybody quiet. Welcome to the February 7th Rotary Club of Brentwood lunch meeting. My name is Stephen Hammers. I am proud to be your president, and I love it. It's awesome. Thank you. Sorry I was out of town last weekend. I had a board meeting in Fort Myers that was 80 degrees and sunny last Thursday and Friday. It was tough, but it was 8 hours a day of meetings, so it wasn't fun. Gonna have a great meeting today. We got a lot to cover. The invocation is gonna be by Laura Troop, and the pledge and four-way test by Steve Huff. So, Laura.
Bow with me, please. Actually, before we bow, I want to make sure everyone is aware that Curry Andrews' wife is in very, very bad shape. And I think she's in the process of transitioning to Jesus. So let's just keep her in our prayers and him as well.
Let me do one more for y'all to know. Bill Cohen, many of you know, passed away this week. Bill was a Paul Harris Fellow. He was the past president of our club from 1985 to 1986. He joined Rotary in 1977, and he was a Rule 85 member. But please pray for his wife, Catherine, and the family. We will have funeral arrangements that I'll send out an email as soon as we get it. So definitely pray for the family.
Creator God, we humbly approach your throne asking for your tender mercy. Please be with our brother Curry and his wife Jane as she prepares for her transition to be with you. We know that death is the space where joy and sorrow meet. And we pray that as you welcome your daughter Jane into your heavenly presence, you also envelop your son Curry into the comforting earthly presence of your Holy Spirit. Help us to nurture his heavy heart through our kindness and care in the coming days and weeks and months. We know that you sit with us in the joys and celebrations that many of us bring into this room, but you also feel every pain and hear every cry. We know that these emotions exist because of your providence. Teach us to be empathetic to one another, from the individuals in this room who we know to those whose paths we cross on any given day, remembering that we all bear your image. Give us a sensitivity and awareness that everyone carries these joys and sorrows at any moment, and that our responses have the power to harm or to heal. Bless the time we have together today and draw us near to each other and near to you. You are a good Father, and we ask that you hold us close as we leave this place. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God.
And now for the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First.
True.
Second.
Fair to all concerned.
Third.
Build goodwill and better friendships.
Fourth. And fifth.
All right, introducing of our guest and visiting Rotarians. Jennifer. Hey, Patrick, will you open that door and ask Jennifer to come out to visit her? Yeah, I see that.
Hello.
It looks like Jennifer is full of hugs and kisses today. Look at that. Oh my gosh.
Sorry, guys. Thank you all for helping and being very patient with our barcode scanner. I think when we all get used to it, it's going to work really great. It worked great today. It was a little slow. We had a couple hiccups, but I think it's going to be great. So thank you. And I will say as well, if you are missing, so one of the things I did on our badges is I covered up your slot number. So if you're missing your number, let Donna know. We'll put another sticker on there, not covering up your barcode that has your slot sticker. I'm number 1 in the slot, so I can remember that. Okay, Thank you very much. And please, if you have any questions about the barcode scanner attendance, the club still does require 60% attendance. We don't monitor it all that close, but we do as a club still like to see a 60% attendance. Okay. Yes. Bill. Laura's going to introduce Bill.
I'd like to introduce my new friend, Bill Jetter. Bill has retired here with his wife from Omaha, Nebraska, where he was a Rotarian, past president, board member. He served in a lot of roles in the club there, but he's retired here and is thrilled to get to know us today, right? So make sure that you have a chance to meet him. Anything you want to add?
Well, I've been here since 2016. I just retired. And I'm not one of those people that, hey, I'm going to go live there. We've been here for a while and really, really enjoy it.
So let's make him feel welcome.
Thank you, Bill.
I'm going to start printing red targets to put on people's back when they come in the door so we know who to talk to. Ray, you have a guest today?
I want to introduce Kim Garis. Many of you remember Regina Smithson, her mom, great servant of Brentwood for years and years and years. I've known Kim for years. Kim has a great servant's heart. And I'm very pleased to announce that she has decided to enter the commission's race. And so I'm asking, even though I'm a candidate, that you would sign her petition if you're a registered Brentwood city voter. I'm very proud because Kim has all those characteristics that make great commissioners: a servant's heart, a love for the city and citizens of Brentwood, wisdom, will listen to the citizens and what they tell us they want done. And I'm so thankful she also has, as her mom did, she is independent. She thinks for herself. And that's one thing that I really love about serving with many commissioners that I've had the blessing with. I don't see Betsy. Rod Freeman in here is one who had his own thought and had all those characteristics. But please sign her petition. Please support her. And let's make the Brentwood City Commission again one about service to others and service above self. Thank you. And now, another friend that's here today, you can stand, who's a member of the Franklin Moon Club, but Jeff Phillips, who kind of had moved out of the area, not way away, still in Middle Tennessee, but moved back in the area and asked to join us today. And I was so happy that he could be here. So welcome, Jeff. Thank you for being here.
And we have one more guest. Oh,
What about those Kentucky Wildcats?
it's so sad.
That's $20 in happy bucks when it comes.
I was just admiring all that food on his plate. Oh my goodness. What does he do with all that food? We have one more guest. Jeff, I don't see you. Didn't we have, wasn't Jeff Phillips here earlier? That was you. Right. So that's Caleb. He's our speaker. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay. That's it. Now that I've made a fool of him.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jennifer. Susie is going to do happy bucks for us.
All right. So good to be here today. I have on bright pink tennis shoes, so I want to walk around the whole room and get all my steps in today at this meeting. So who's happy? Seriously.
Ellen is.
Alan
He owes you.
owes $20. Exactly. I'm going to start with Laura.
Just a quick reminder that you have these little cards on your table. Ask me about Rotary. Get a stack of them, put them in your pocket. And if you meet potential good future Rotarians, write your name down, hand them a card, and get to know them. Invite them to our meeting. There are people that we interact with every day that would be great Rotarians, but we've got to make the introduction to Rotary for them. So pick some up. If there are not enough on your table, there's a box on the guest table on the way out.
Thank you. All right, Alan, I know you're just sitting down. They said you wanted to talk.
I just paid my foundation pledge. But I do have something to talk about. Kentucky Wildcats destroyed by the Ole Miss Rebels. 98-84. Jennifer, what about it?
Where's the money?
Yeah, exactly. He made his pledge. He made his pledge, he said. All right, happy Bucks. Jeff, just a second. All right.
I love Mexico. I love the people. I like the terrain. I love the climate. Just happened to have had the last 10 days in Cabo San Lucas, and it was a wonderful experience. One of the things that the Mexican people can use our help on is stopping the fentanyl addiction problem. The other thing that they could use our help on, stopping the illegal importation of heavy weapons into Mexico. The cartels outgun the military. They have heavier weapons, they have more of them, and then, frankly, they have better intelligence. That's compounded by the corruption in the Mexican government and the Mexican military. So I don't know what the answer is to all that, but I'm encouraged to see that our new Attorney General is making stopping the cartels a big deal. It'll also improve another major issue, which is human trafficking. So anytime you have an opportunity to think about Mexico and Mexicans and what we can do, stopping the fentanyl addiction is a big one, and stopping the flow of arms into Mexico is another. Great country. I love it. Had a great time.
Thanks, Jeff. All right. Anybody else? Oh, Tom.
I want to welcome Kim to the fray. For those of you that live in Brentwood, there is a cabal of 4 commissioners who all vote together, and they're about to run roughshod over our city and spend a lot of money that the people don't want spent, and they won't listen to the people, and they won't do a referendum because they know they'll lose. So I want us to get back to a commission where they are independent. They all are working for the best interests of Brentwood, not just doing favors for small groups of people. So thank you, Kim.
Well said. Anyone else? All right. Thank you.
Susan, why don't you go ahead and make your announcement? Susan has a wonderful announcement to make.
So our district has a great program, which is called Rotary Grad School. And in the olden days, like when I went through, you were required to have been involved in your club, to be a past president, and all those kind of things. But what the district realized is we need to educate everyday Rotarians, not ones that are already involved. So they created this program. We've got several, Laura's in the class right now, and we have several graduates. I know, okay, everybody's a graduate. But we have one graduate who never got her diploma because she wasn't at the graduation ceremony. So I have Anu's diploma if you want to come up and get your certificate and your pin. So this is 5 months of learning about Rotary, taking tests, studying, and then passing. Congrats. I'll hold it up. Congrats.
Congratulations. Next week, what's next week? Valentine's Day. We are going to have a special Valentine's Day, which we want you to invite your special sweetheart to our meeting. And so we're also offering the meal at half price. So that should definitely entice you. They're now very much worth coming. So please invite your special one, special sweetheart next week. It's going to be a special day and a special meal. So, and don't forget to, when you make your reservations, don't forget to put that down. It's going to be a great week. Larry's got a quick announcement. Also something that's starting next week. Oh, I want to let you know that Larry Faust already signed up Jan Faust. Larry, where are you? I saw you come in. He's very excited. The
Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
An early sign up for next week. Okay, real quick, cornhole next week also starts. We have 12 men signed up and we had 3 ladies. We now have 4. I talked Laura into signing up. So we have 4 ladies signed up.
5.
We need more ladies. We need 4 more men. The sheets are on your table. It's fun. It won't last long. Starts next week. Please, I'll have the brackets out to everyone hopefully by Monday or Tuesday if we get a full field. And it'll be a fun time. Mike Barrett, are you listening to me? Thank you. You got it. Good man. All right. We'll see y'all. We'll see y'all. Thank you. Sign up. You got somebody signing up there? Got 2? 2 girls? Oh, 2 girls. Okay. All right. See y'all. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to invite Jennifer Shepard up to introduce our guest.
Thank you. So today's guest is not only Tennessee State Representative, but also a visiting Rotarian from the Nashville Rotary Club. So Representative Caleb Hemmer was elected in 2022 as the Tennessee State Representative for District 59, encompassing the southern border of Davidson County. As the chair of the Davidson County delegation, Representative Hemmer has championed pragmatic policies and served on the Health, Insurance, and Government Operations Committees to bring these common sense solutions to Tennessee. And you're about to be on the Banking Regulation Committee, right? So yeah. Where am I? Oh, during his first term in office, he passed critical legislative initiatives that included improving transparency for consumers, public education and affordable housing for Tennesseans, and real solution-oriented efforts to combat Tennessee's critical vehicle gun theft epidemic, which garnered national attention with coverage on the front page of the New York Times. As a member of the Tennessee General Assembly, he draws upon his decades of experience to guide him in his role. He previously served as a former aide to Governor Phil Bredesen and executive in the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. It was during this service that Caleb learned firsthand how state government works for its citizens and how to govern effectively. Additionally, he served as commissioner on the Metro Board of Fair Commissioners and led the redevelopment of Nashville Fairgrounds, including a new expo center, park, greenway, and the MLS stadium where the Nashville Soccer Club plays. Also, he leverages his successful private sector experience in his role in elected office. Hemmer was a founding team member of the Silicon Ranch Corporation, a Nashville-based startup focusing on utility-scale solar development. For the last decade, he has been an executive in Nashville's innovative healthcare industry, working in various management roles, focusing on improving the healthcare system. Currently, he is a vice president at a healthcare company that provides high-quality, affordable healthcare to the most vulnerable senior citizens who live in post-acute care facilities. Representative Hemmer's extensive record of community involvement and volunteer work underscores his dedication to improving his hometown of Nashville. He serves as a deacon in his church, a member of the Nashville Rotary, and several neighborhood associations throughout Nashville. His most important roles are father and husband. He lives in Forest Hills with his 2 young children and his wife, Lori. And side note, he and Jason Holst were buddies in college. So if you want the unauthorized story on Caleb, you need to ask Jason. And if you want the unauthorized story on Jason, you should ask Caleb. So welcome, Caleb Hemmer.
Thank you for having me. And that I think I'll need to bring you around. You could be a good hype woman for me to speak. But thank you so much. Yeah, Jason and I went to college together, and so that is a two-way street of the different things that we know about each other. So just remember that, Jason. But it's good to see other familiar faces. I work every day with Rob Eicher down at the Capitol, and so thank you so much for having me. It's my second Rotary visit of the week is being a member of the Nashville Downtown Rotary, so I might win some award for multiple rubber chicken dinner circuits here. But honored to be here. It's really great. I actually represent the whole southern border of Davidson County. A lot of times, when people say, yeah, I might live in Brentwood, I'll say, do you live on the Davidson County side, the Williamson County side? And then it gets really complicated because you get some areas like Church Street, which cuts both sides of the street. And I'll say, well, I live on Church Street. And I'll say, well, do you live on the south side or the east side? So we have a pretty gerrymandered districts in some places, but really honored to be here today. We just started the legislative session. As you've probably seen the news, this past week was actually our first full legislative session. We started out having a special session a couple of weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago now. It seems like a lifetime ago. That was pretty interesting. We typically have not had a lot of special sessions over the years, but in Governor Lee's term, this is actually our 7th one, so they've become a lot more frequent. And during special session, we went over it was really 3 things: education. The governor had a voucher initiative, immigration, and flood relief. The flood relief was a particularly non-controversial item. Working through the flood relief for Hurricane Helene for our East Tennessee neighbors. I was able to go up and visit in Cocke County and see some of the damage firsthand. And it's just unbelievable. I-40 literally just stops. And just, seeing where there used to be roads that was just unthinkable damage. And so there's just so many homes and things that washed away in a 500-year flood. And so we were really thankful to be able to work with the governor and members in a bipartisan manner and really provide a lot of relief for those homeowners and those citizens up there. The voucher story was a little bit different. It was a very caustic and quite frankly pretty trying for me. I'd spent most of last year. I was actually a voucher opponent for that. And for the reasons I was against it was, I'd spent a lot of time talking with people in other states that had these. I talked with, actually had brought a leading education researcher from, actually it was Michigan State University who does nothing but researches these and teaches on these. And I didn't hear any good things that happened. And I was worried, a couple of things really caught my attention. In Arizona, it created nearly $1 billion hole in their state budget. And why that was is because I call vouchers a tapeworm for state and local education budgets. And what it did in Arizona is they created a very similar universal voucher program that we did. But 53% of any new state dollar was only going to 8% of students, which were the voucher students. So it really was just taking all this new money that you would normally put in this revenue, and you would put it in that. The second thing was you're not really moving the needle on educational outcomes. Even in Tennessee, we had a pilot. We had one in Nashville and Memphis, a minor pilot with a lot of different strings compared to the one we just passed. And it didn't have any good results. And so I just didn't feel like it was a good government program when you run a pilot and it didn't do any good. Even the education commissioner said it wasn't anything, scrolls were anything to write home about. And then we go and spend $450 million to expand it across the state. And then on the other side of the aisle, it was interesting. And I laughed to a lot of people. I said if the most liberal members of the legislature and the most conservative members of the legislature are against something, you might want to just take pause, because that doesn't happen often, and really step back and think, well, what is going on here? And it was actually interesting from the other side of the aisle. The most conservative members were against it for a few different reasons. One, I talked about the fiscal issue. A lot of members were against it for constitutional concerns. We actually have it in our state constitution that we have to fully fund and provide free education for our citizens. And then we had a lot of other concerns about the type of schools that are opening. You hear a lot of talk about woke schools. Seeing some states, North Carolina, their number one spender for vouchers was a Muslim school. We had some schools in Arizona that I heard some other members that were worried about. There was some LGBTQ focused schools, and so you had some conservative members that didn't like things that were considered these woke education agendas or specific religious education agendas. So you created this whole different plethora of reasons why people are against it. And then quite frankly, a lot of the rural areas, you know, you hear it got branded as a school choice initiative. Well, a lot of the rural areas didn't feel like it was school choice because only 51, or it's actually, I think 51 out of our 95 counties had, excuse me, I think it was 47, but give me my math, but it was less than half of our counties had a private school. So you had a lot of areas that would just never have seen any benefit. Like I talk about the Arizona, they were going to not see any, you know, they would potentially see less in their tax revenue. So all in all, it created this really caustic area. And you also, one really important item to think about, including this county, your largest employer is your school system. And so when you think about, you know, from a workforce development, a job perspective, and that Williamson County was you know, something that really surprised me from all your legislators supported it because, you know, I'm of the age where I have a lot of friends that want to move to Williamson County. They have moved to Williamson County. And why? For your school system. You have, look at your high schools. Every one of your high schools are a school system. And actually from talking with the chamber here, you know, they had a really good point, said, you know, let's not kill the golden goose. We have a really good thing here. Even looking, I heard from one of the I guess it was a executive came and spoke to the Williamson County Chamber last year, and he said, you know, I came to this area, and you know, it's the first time I put my kids in the public school system. It was better than the private schools. Y'all have something really special here, and it's also, and it's just like, so why would you want to mess with that? You have such a good thing. Let's work on supporting that. And so I'm a very evidence-based guy. I looked at, hey, evidence isn't supporting it. We do know what the evidence does support in terms of educational policy, and this didn't really fit. So that's why I voted for it. Was not in the majority, actually was a pretty close vote. We had 53 votes in the House out of 99, and in the Senate it passed 20-13. So the governor is, I don't know if he signed it already, but it will sign it, so that will be the law. And so now it's time to turn the page and figure out, you know, what's the right way to create accountability around these programs, so you make sure you don't have you know, a lot of fraud, waste, abuse, and other issues with that, and we're using these taxpayer dollars effectively. So some of the stuff we're working on this year, now that we're in regular session, the governor actually is going to be speaking Monday at its annual State of the State. This is typically when the governor outlines his priorities, is when we hear and receive the governor's budget. And so that's a really big thing, helps kick off a lot of discussions, budget hearings, et cetera. If you're looking at last year's budget and kind of the trend we've had, it was about a 58.59 billion budget. And actually we had a really big decrease in our budget because we had a lot of COVID monies kind of wind down starting last year. We'll have a little bit more of that this year. So I'll be interested to see the number. It was actually about $10 billion. So really, really significant down. And just looking at our state revenue projections, you know, we have it's about 50-50 federal state here in this in terms of federal money versus state revenue. And knowing and seeing what is happening in the federal government right now, it's federal government budget negotiations, tax policy. It's just it's not, we don't know a lot what's going on up there. And so, you know, we are kind of in this holding pattern for that, but we have to plan. Actually, that's the only thing we are required to do as a legislature, is pass a budget. A lot of folks like Rob would wish we would go up there and pass a budget and go home, and probably a lot of citizens too, but we end up doing actually about 1,400 pieces of legislation each year. We just had our filing deadline yesterday, so everybody was running around like chickens with their heads cut off, figuring out what legislation to do. The Senate doesn't have a cap, but the House does. We have it's actually this year, we moved from 15 bills to 12 bills. And so it created a little bit of, you know, scarcity. And so people like me, had to really prioritize bills, and also to do some horse trading. I did some begging for some people that didn't have their bill limits, so I was able to get some of theirs. And so, you know, a lot of times you'd have people, we call it messaging bills, or just things, you know, it takes maybe a couple of years on some bills to get passed. And so this year you kind of had to really buckle down and say, oh, what I think I can do, what's my top priority. So it created a really different dynamic that we haven't seen. So long story short, we should be knowing what the governor's priorities are. It'll kind of go through the machinations for the next 2 or 3 months, and typically we get out around mid-April. And so We will be working through those budgets and, the legislature puts their final approval on the budget. It's one of our core duties, as I mentioned. And so that will be going through the negotiations with the House and the Senate and the administration over the next couple of months. So what I'm specifically focused on, talking about my bills and kind of, I go to kind of a back to basics approach, healthcare, crime, education, safety, and things. So my 12 bills, and actually I'm working across the aisle with a lot of Republicans this year on some bipartisan. I'm either having members co-sponsor bills with me or co-sponsor other people's bills that I talked about. Typically in these years, you didn't have a cap, or you would, everybody would do the same kind of bills. We kind of had to be really smart this year. So we created spreadsheets and say, okay, I'm going to do this bill. You're going to do this bill. A couple of good examples in education and children's mental health was a big focus for me studying last year. So I've got a bill around making sure records are transferred more quickly within 3 days for both disciplinary and academic. I've had some problems with some schools. Well, that was a bill that a guy down the hall, a Republican, had. He had filled up too much, and he knew I was interested in this, so he gave me the bill and co-sponsored it. Also going to be working with a Republican member bill that failed last year about making sure school boards have electronic device policies. I read actually through our church, our pastor did a series on this anxious generation. If you haven't read it, if you're a parent, grandparent, it's a great book by a social psychologist. It talks about a number of mental health issues that's happened with children since uptick of social media and things of that nature. Just mind-blowing book. You're seeing in kind of worldwide policy changes based on this, and we've seen some of the horrible things that have happened. And so really just trying to put some common sense controls. My county, Davidson County, put an electronic policy in place last year, and the teachers I've talked to, the guidance counselors I've talked to, have just been like, thank you. I mean, it is just, the guy that actually wrote the book, Jonathan Haidt, he said something in an interview that really struck me. He's like, would you just imagine a world where you got a student in a classroom and you let them have a computer, a boom box, and a movie projection, right there, and imagine trying to learn in that. And that's essentially what they're doing with their phones if they have it in school. I know there'll be some give and take because of the different things around, school safety. We saw the unfortunate Antioch shooting right there, and parents wanted to get in touch with their kids, and also vice versa. So there's some give and take. We got to think through on those things, but by and large, having a policy to limit electronic devices during instructional time, it should be a no-brainer. It should be bipartisan. So we'll be working across the aisle on that this year. Working on another bill around creating a state policy, state report, annual report on children's mental health, putting together all the stakeholders. It's very fragmented right now. No one's really quarterbacking this, going on that same issue. So we've got to actually have a commission called the Tennessee Children and Youth Commission, and they used to do a annual report, and they haven't for the last couple of years. So we're asking them to redo that a year. Got a bill around educating higher education through our THEC, which is the kind of governing body, to give a funding formula, give a basically incentive to our higher education facilities and institutions to promote the fast track job, high demand degrees. You think of like computer science, some of the other things. As Warren Buffett said, show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcomes. So we're trying to promote these, tied to our workforce, what we're seeing, what we're needing. Again, kind of be common sense. Healthcare, I got a healthcare background, serve on the health committee. So something really interested in, and we have a maternal and infant mortality crisis in our state. We don't really see it and think about it here in Williamson County or Davidson County in some areas and socio-demographic areas, but it's really, really bad. In terms of our outcomes, we're one of the on the lower tier in the bottom 10 of the states. And if you look at TennCare, our Medicaid agency, they are responsible for about half the births in the state. And the maternal death rate is 3 times higher in TennCare than it is in private insurance. And if you actually go down, you can look at this, the zip code level, it's really, really bad in communities of color. And a lot of this, 90+% is preventable. And so you think of a wealthy country, healthcare capital of the country right here. And we still have this really, really horrible problem. So I got a bill based on what Louisiana did. It was just very simple. It's providing more education to the high-risk mothers during discharge or their caregivers. The main cause of death we know is preeclampsia. There's some diabetes. There's some blood pressure, other things. So really giving them information about warning signs when they are discharged from the hospital, so they know what to look for. Other things I'm looking forward to doing is co-sponsoring a bill actually with a Republican, Dr. Briggs out of Knoxville. It's a Freedom to Grow Our Tennessee Families Act, which will require some insurance coverage for fertility care, for IVF, fertility preservation services. And then I'm a former cancer survivor. I joke I had so much fun with cancer. I had it twice, 10 years cancer-free this year, Hodgkin's lymphoma, thank the Lord. And one of the things we're doing this year is put forth a bill, again, co-sponsoring with a Republican around creating some biomarker testing coverage in our healthcare system. So there's so much advancements in these genetic testing that'll actually save the state money and actually save a lot of healthcare employers money, or employers to provide healthcare services, of just be able to get them the right kind of test so they know what kind of treatment, what kind of cancer that's happening right now. So we've seen some other states do that. It's a really nice common sense thing. Consumer protection, I've got a few things. I passed a bill 2 years ago. If you've noticed that when you go and buy a concert ticket, it'll now tell you what the all-in price used to. It would kind of be a bait and switch. You go in and then you get to the cart and it'd be like, what the heck happened here? Well, I got ticked off at that. And actually, funny enough, it was my assistant. She was one of the infinite number of Taylor Swift fans who got screwed over. And she said, I want to do a bill. And I said, okay, bring me a bill and I'll do one for you. And so she brought this one. She said, well, this is one, we maybe can't fix that problem, but we can fix this. And that way people don't feel like they're getting screwed when they're buying tickets. You're going to know what the price is on the front end. So we passed that. We actually found out, we'll maybe do a little tweak this year, found out where there's some companies that actually put spec tickets out there, which are essentially they're selling you a ticket they don't own yet. They're trying to get it and make you pay for it, and then they're going to go out and find it, and if they find it cheaper, they'll buy it, and if not, they'll just cancel your ticket. So you're essentially buying a coupon. Never would have thought this was happening, but it is, and we're trying to limit that. And then similarly, I got another consumer protection working with Senator Charlene Oliver. She represents North Nashville's had a horrible problem during tornadoes, and she actually got a lot of gentrification in her area. And I get this too, where if you've gotten the text from, I want to buy your home, and phone calls, it's these predatory out-of-state groups that are typically trying to buy homes for cents on the dollar, not registering and not doing all the stuff. So we're trying to put some regulations around that, so it's not the Wild West out there, and some of these people are really getting taken advantage of. Some safety initiatives, as Jennifer mentioned, one of the things that I'm really focused on, I had this bill last year, got a long road, but really trying to put some more enforcement activities around guns being left in cars and guns being stolen out of cars. If you don't know, we are the #1 state in the country of having your guns being stolen out of cars, and these are going to criminals. You remember last year we had a horrible incident where a Metro police officer barely survived. Somebody left a gun in the car at the airport, got stolen, went, his criminal took it, went on a crime spree. SWAT team had to get involved, and he ended up shooting a Metro police officer. He survived by the grace of God. If you look at our stats for this, it's since we've loosened some laws in 2010. It looks like I always joke, you want your 401k to look like this. It looks like a stair step, but you don't want your crime stats to look like this. Nashville alone, I think it's about 850 last year, and that's actually down about 20%. We've done a significant amount of education on this. Last year, we put some monies in the budget for about $1 million for some ad campaigns. We provide gun locks throughout. If you want to go to any of your police officers' Department of Safety office right now, you can do that and get a gun lock. And then we have a number of, yes, now it's a permanent sales tax holiday on gun safes. So really just trying to encourage people to be smart. It's actually a kind of crazy story. It's a loophole in the law. So it is illegal to leave your gun unsecured in the law. It's just no penalty. So I tell people all the time, it's like, you know, saying don't speed, but there's never going to get a speeding ticket. If you don't have enforcement, you're going to, you know, have something happen. And it's unfortunately, it's just, we're so much outlier in terms of the data and seeing other states. Memphis is #1 in the country, Shelby County, but it's actually still bad here. Davidson County is 14th in the United States. And I got into this because when I was knocking on doors 2 years ago, it was the #1 thing I heard about knocking on doors. And which is really surprising to me. And it's just one of those things where I'm a gun owner, I'm a hunter. I actually have small kids. My son likes to rifle around in my glove box like he's a raccoon, so I know better. But it's just, I couldn't imagine leaving a weapon in a car after seeing all the bad things that are happening. So we're trying to turn the corner on that. And then I got a couple fun bills. Last year I got kind of mad because we have some state official foods. If you ever seen a blue book, if you want a blue book, feel free to contact my office. I can give you a link. We can send some out. They're great for kids. If you don't have one, I encourage you to get one. We just released a new one last year. But we have some state official foods, and some people from Cleveland last year put some hot slaw in the law. It's a state official food. I didn't know what the heck hot slaw is. If you know, you're better than me. But actually New York Times did a story on it, and they have a hot slaw festival. But so anyway, it's just tied to their local culture down in Cleveland. And I said, you know, sure, we have Nashville hot chicken as a state official food, or Nashville is a state, the hot chicken capital of the state, and we don't. So, you know, it's silly, it's fun, but it's actually part of our culture. And it's important to us, and it's important as part of our branding as our state. And someone asked me the other day, I said, does that mean that Tennessee will start getting a license revenue when I go to, you know, New York and I open a menu and I see Nashville hot chicken? I said, I wish, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to work on that next, but we're doing that one. And then 2 other things I'm working on, running my first bill. Like I mentioned, I'm a big hunter and outdoorsman. I had a situation a couple years ago where I had a hunting lease, and I saw one of my guys in my hunting lease sent a picture. He had a guy walking out with a turkey on his back, and he said, "Is that you?" I said, "No, it's not." And then we found out it was somebody trespassed on our land. TWA was able to quickly find them. It was amazing, and just off of the picture, but ended up finding out how big of a rampant problem this is. And I was wondering why it was a rampant problem. So I started researching a little bit about it. And it's only $10 to $50 fine for trespassing. It hasn't been changed since it got instituted in the code in 1961. And if you've never, if you don't have a hunting, or you're not into hunting, I can promise $10 to $50 is a lot less than a hunting lease. And so there's no disencouragement to stop this. And this is, it's crazy to me. So anyway, I'm starting to put forth this bill to increase the penalties to up to $500 as defined, up to $500 as described by a judge, in hopes of limiting this illegal behavior and trespassing. There's nothing that'll make you more mad as a landowner to have this happen, put all this work in, and then somebody trespasses or even, you know, takes the game. And the game is actually Tennessee's game. It's owned by the state of Tennessee. So we're working on that. And then lastly, I've got an ethics bill. So I had to, unfortunately, I had to file an ethics complaint on one of our state commissioners last year because they were using, I'll call it a loophole, a gray area in the law, where they were using, taking trips. And actually the governor ended up doing one of these too and had to pay money. But long story short, per our state ethics law, you're not allowed to take a trip. If this seems like common sense, but again, you're not allowed to take a trip from an organization that runs a lobbyist, and so, or has a lobbyist in the state and lobbying. What was happening was a 50C3 would hire a lobbyist, and then a 50C4, or maybe I'm getting backwards, would then pay for a trip, and they would still have the same address, the same employees, the same everything. Rob can tell you this is a big no-no, but because this was a gray area of the law, they were doing it. The Ethics Commission ended up putting a finding that this was illegal and asked us to change the code. And since I started the whole kerfuffle, I'm gonna do a bill bipartisan with a Republican senator to make this illegal. But I will say, as I talk about, we have 1,400 bills filed this year. The stuff that gets attention, that gets people riled up, or all the, stuff you see on the news, the culture war stuff, the, things that, look good on Fox News or MSNBC, but by and large, the stuff we do down there is very boring. I mean, it's not, and we want it that way. 90+% of stuff we vote on is 99 to nothing or close to that. It's really, really good in terms of how we do work together most of the time. It's just the things that are caustic that you can't imagine, get most attention in the news. But, by and large, we've had made a lot of good progress in our state with things in terms of business climate, in terms of, economic development and education and workforce and just doing the people's business. And so I hope we continue to do that. I'm trying to, I ran on a platform of just being normal and trying to, help people. You would have thought I had 3 heads when I told people that, but it originally, but it really did resonate. And I'm just, still trying to do that through my public service. Really honored to do it. I started out actually as an intern 20+ years ago. So it's pretty neat. We actually have a few other members that are former interns as well. And so honored to do it. It's been an honor of my lifetime. And thank y'all for hearing me out. I'm glad to take any questions if y'all have any. I don't know if we're allowed to let him do one. Yeah.
Obviously you're very instrumental in the fairgrounds, revitalization.
Yeah.
What's the update on the Speedway? Are you still involved in that anyway? What's happening?
Yeah, yes and no. I asked recently, so they are still in negotiation. Jason, you can hear the question. Asked if I was instrumental in the fairgrounds redevelopment. I was on the fairgrounds board previously and got to help get the soccer stadium and all the new facilities over there. The short answer is it's here more to come. I think you're having a lot of negotiation behind the scenes with the racetrack people and the Metro, O'Connell administration. There is needs, it's still in the Metro charter that racing needs to be there. As long as that's in there, racing is going to be there. And I think the question is how to pay for it and how much. Things I had trouble with when I was on the fair board, was looking at soccer versus the racetrack was, the soccer membership, soccer viewership, interest, it's kind of on the rise. NASCAR, others have traditionally, if you look at the metrics, membership, viewership, dollars is kind of on the dying sport, so to speak. So I think that I hear that's, a lot of the conversations, it's really just about money. It's how much of an offer Bristol wants to put into it versus how much Metro may need to do to keep that up safe and up and going. Bristol's put forth a pretty interesting package, and I think they're just kind of in the midst of negotiation. We should hear more late spring, I hear.
For being here. Well, thank you for being here.
Yep.
There is a bill that's currently in subcommittee right now. It's in the Civil Justice Subcommittee. Don't know if it'll make it out.
Okay.
But it is House Bill 0004. And it's relative to the Governmental Tort Liability Act, attempting to raise more than double the caps that local governments could be subject to claims against us. It's something that has helped. I work for the city of Brentwood.
Okay.
President of Tennessee City Managers Association right now.
Okay.
And that has helped keep our taxes low because everybody would like to take a bite out of local government in a lawsuit. And to more than double those caps that hurt local governments all over the state, ultimately it's the taxpayers who pay that.
Yeah. Would
ask your consideration and just to think about what it would do to the taxpayers across the state if that thing were to be passed this year.
Thank you for that. My brother-in-law is also city manager, so I'm surprised I haven't already heard about that. No, I have not. As I mentioned, we just had our filing deadline yesterday. So I've not read 1,400 bills in a day. Unfortunately, I'm pretty good. I'm not that good, and I don't serve on that committee. Just be honest, the sheer volume of things we deal with. I'll give you an example. Last week I spent, oh gosh, Charles, probably about 1:30 Friday morning. I usually spend my Fridays catching up after the week. I had about, I think it was 557 emails of constituents. I have a district about 70,000, about 55,000 voting age population. So, 1%, it emailed me just through the week wanting to know what I thought about this or needing this and just going through. And so long answers, I haven't had a chance to get to it. I typically don't read the bills that don't make it out of committee. I read what's in front of me or my bills or what people have asked me. I'll definitely look into it. I would say, and talking about it earlier in terms of business climate and things like that nature, unless there's a reason that needs to be increased, it sounds like, it's not something that'll probably get a lot. And also things like that also get killed pretty easy because they'll have a big local impact to a government. So unless we fund that, we can't just pass bills that are going to cost, $1 million to local government. We have to actually fund that per our state. So a lot of that stuff gets caught up in that because we wouldn't be funding that. It's not in our interest to do that unless there's some public policy reason why. So.
Hey, Representative. I am a very new member of this club, so a lot of y'all don't know me. I'm a lobbyist. I'm the lobbyist for the food industry, the grocery industry in Tennessee. And so I have the pleasure of calling on all 132 members of our legislature. And
Really a pleasure?
it's a pleasure
Okay.
every single time. It's always a pleasure walking into your office, Representative. He is a great public servant. His door is always open. He's tough. He's thoughtful. He's smart. But I always get a good reception from Representative Hemmer, and I really appreciate you every day and appreciate you being here today. Last year, yes. Last year, one of your party colleagues introduced a bill to eliminate the sales tax on groceries or on food. This year, the other party, the majority party, has a bill out to do the same thing, and so those bills are both out there. What's your feeling on the chances of maybe getting that done this year?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's gotten a lot. It was really interesting because it kind of kept its sprint. I was actually pretty surprised at how popular it got. So what happened was two Democratic members proposed this last year. If you don't know the makeup of the General Assembly, there's 24 Democrats in the House, 6 in the Senate, so super minority is what we call it. So the Republicans typically drive the agenda in the legislature. And so anyway, it got very popular and nobody wanted to vote against that last year. And then actually during the campaign times, the people really took a hold of that and they wanted the grocery tax cuts. We're not an income tax state. We're a predominantly regressive sales tax driven. And so this is a pretty big revenue hit, but it got very popular, particularly because we did cut some corporate taxes last year. It was about $2 billion. So people kept saying, well, you can cut $2 billion corporate tax. Why can't we have, the things that really would work toward, helping, especially, looking at the price of eggs the last week or two, toward grocery taxes. And so some Republicans have also, Democrats have reintroduced it. Some Republicans have saw how popular it was and introduced it. I think it'll be part of our, budget discussion. They'll be interested to see if it's in the governor's budget. I doubt it will be. I actually need to figure out what our new fiscal note on that is, to figure out. It's going to be a very large, 100 plus 200 million, figure, I'd imagine. It's one of the things my caucus is in favor for. It's one of the things I'm in favor for. We can find it for these other things that, I think we can at least help working families with, being one of the few states that's still holding on to a very, very high sales tax on groceries.
Yeah, last question.
I'll be quick.
Is there any rail guard or the criteria you will review on the vouchers, like how it will form the program next year? You're gonna review them as a house?
Yes.
First part, and the second is so many scam calls come our way on a phone and as a business, and business especially, it's annoying.
Yeah.
Is there something in the state, some legislation?
Yeah.
Buying these companies?
Yeah, I'll answer the second one first. If you're not on the do not call list, both the national and there's a state do not call list, I would do that. Unfortunately, those are for the reputable groups. You're still gonna have, scam calls from, Nigeria telling you you won the lottery. There's not much you can do about that. But I would be on that. I personally, I'm on those. When I get a call, I will go and put a complaint in. I've worked with the agencies and responsible for that to try to work to ensure their enforcement. They do enforce it a lot of times. That's part of what we're trying to do with this home buyer text thing. And on the vouchers, it is a requirement every year that the State Department of Education has to put out an annual report. And actually, around vouchers, it's it's kind of, you take it with a grain of salt because it is coming from, I think Department of Education, but there were some things that were left out. So I have to ask for my own data. I have an education researcher who's a PhD who does this, who I trust. And so I'll get raw data and I'll get him to pull the numbers and, try to put out my own press releases and talk about it. If there's things that don't match up right. So for example, this year they put out, a lot of the data, but they left out high schools. And so it kind of tweaked some of the data. And so I was able to go out and say, well, this isn't the full story. This is in here. And so, it's like Mark Twain says, lies, damn lies and statistics, and you can do a lot with that. And, but I just try to, I'm not scared to speak truth to power. And I want people to know, what these things really do. And if they're working, I'll be the first one to say, great, let's keep doing it. But like I said, I don't see how, past performance is the first indicator for future success. And I looked at every state that did this and there wasn't a good story. And it's particularly the recent ones. The more recent the voucher programs, the worse the results were. And so it just was, quite frankly, I said in my speech on the floor, the single worst public policy thing we have done as a state. And I think we'll come to regret it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Caleb, we want to appreciate you speaking to us. We have a gift pen, but we'd like for you to use that pen and sign a book for us that we read to first graders. So I really appreciate that. You go ahead and do that over there. Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to thank our guests for coming today. Bill, Kim, Steve, Jeff, thank you so much for coming. Glad to have you back anytime. Really appreciate it. That's all we have for the day. If there's nothing else that we have for the good of Rotary, y'all adjourn. Have a good weekend.